Three voices rise from different lands, guided by the moon with open hands. In the circle we unite as one, sharing wisdom under the sun. Divine feminine voices, we are free. Three hearts, one spirit in harmony. On this journey, our truths we share. In the light of love, we're always there.
Cheryl.
Deep definition in full extent. Sorry about that.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome.
Hi.
Hey, everybody.
Well, we are excited to be here to talk today. Are we? Are we excited?
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, but you didn't make that sound super exciting. You were like very chill. Like, are we really? Is it true?
Yeah.
We're excited to be here.
We are excited to be here. Yeah. But to talk about a topic of concern for all of us. Concern for all of us.
Yeah. I know, stepping into the season, right? The season that it's a duality, I believe, that of light for many and dark for many. So yeah, we're here. We're in it.
Yeah.
How's everyone feeling?
Full-fledged. And what you just said.
Sorry, Cheryl.
Yeah. So what she just said about the duality, because some of the time it can be that situation where it's so full of joy. Like this year for me, it's going to be fun for Christmas anyway. My mom gave in for the first time and was like, why don't you, not gave in, but she was like, she made the suggestion, why don't you host Christmas? I was like, what? Are you guys going to spend the night too? My brother and her, and they were like, yeah, because my brother's his family is going to be going away to his wife's side of the family. And I was like, yay, I'm excited about it. Excited. So.
That's fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
Which is total opposite from last year, right? Where I had cut off my mother. I wasn't even speaking to her at Christmas, because we always go through the challenge of what gifts to give each other. And I was just fed up with it last year. So I'm grateful. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, the holiday season, we were just chatting before we started. And the reason that we had talked about doing this topic is because, we see all this joy that we're supposed to be having at this time of year. And it's not always joyous for people. If you're estranged from family, or if you have different issues, or you're alone, you don't have anyone, whatever it is, there can be a lot of stress, right? We see a lot of domestic violence this time of year. Suicide rates are up at this time of year. There's so many things because there's a lot of stress this time of year. And so,
And for even, I think that even just trying to make it look a certain way, the way that it used to be, right? So for me, I used to have a large family and we always had holidays together, and then some people got divorced and moved on and, and passed away. And so the holidays don't look the same. So going through the grief of what it used to be and what it's not, right? And how it's changed. And I think, we talk, I use the word grief because, as you both know, that I'm going through grief with my father, but also now just my mother passed away, and learning that with grief, there comes layers of sadness, but we grieve all the time in life. And we don't really call it grief. We might call it stress. We call it frustration. But, I know we've had the topic where we've talked about menopause, right? And the woman that we used to be, there's grief to that. And just being intimate and understanding of what that sadness really is just a loss, and that it's a grief of what it was and what isn't any longer. And when we can let go or surrender and find peace within ourselves to let that part of us go and now create and recalibrate to create a new, right?
Mhm.
Is the better way of looking at it rather than looking at what we lost, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or what
Yeah,
we
that takes um, a real mature perspective on it. I don't know if mature is the right word for that, but it takes an advanced knowledge and groundedness and mindfulness to be in that space where you are, right? And it takes doing the work to get there.
Mhm.
That you know when you come upon these transitions that are inevitably going to happen in life, that you can walk through it with the elegance that works best for you.
Right.
Right? So the grief stages, there's many of them, but when we're grieving, each of us will grieve differently. In true transparency, I was like, no, today is not a good day for us to do this because I was concerned about Elizabeth. Elizabeth came in and was like, yes, today is the day. This
Mhm.
Mhm.
is the way that I process my grief, and this is how we'll move forward with this. And so it was one of those divine feminine moments where we could just be like, okay, we got you. Let's go. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
Do it.
Yes. I just also want to back up and explain, like, for one, I've had um 52 years with an incredible mom, right? I had incredible parents. Both my parents were wonderful people. They were married. I had dinner on the table all the time. I came from a lovely home. I am sad my mom is gone. I'm sad my mom is no longer physical, but I see death as a birth. And the birth is that she is no longer physical, but she's now back to spirit, and she can still be with me and give her wisdom to me all the time now, where in her latter years, where her physical human mind wasn't as brilliant, she wasn't able to give me those tidbits of wisdom that I know that she had, right? So I see it in a sense of birth and rejoice that now I get my really wise mom back.
Mhm.
And I will forever miss my mom. I'll forever miss touching her. I can see her hands. I can see her beautiful little face. Um, but I know that face so intimately, so it brings warmth to my heart. I won't forget her.
That's beautiful. So
Mhm.
that really brings forward the thought about some of the things that we had outlined we would discuss during this time together. And how do you all use mindfulness to stay grounded in the holiday season? I asked I teach meditation on Wednesday, or I host a meditation on Wednesdays to a group of people and meditate together. And that was one of the questions I asked them. Like, how do you use mindfulness in the holidays to help you navigate and stay grounded in the midst of all the chaos?
Yeah. Well, I know for myself, it's like that check-in. What do I really want? What do I want to experience? What's important to me? And then those important things, making those happen. And the things that are, not so important, but the societal expectations, they can go by the wayside. I'm
What are
old enough
some of
that I
the
don't need to do
things?
that.
Yeah, what are some of the things? Because there's some of us that might be going through a situation where we're learning to live a different life, right? And we need some ideas about what are those things that I can incorporate in my life that other people are finding joy with, or keeping grounded with. So give us a couple of examples, Larissa.
Well, a couple of things that we've incorporated in our family. So we have a little family, my daughter and her family, and we've made it really casual, right? So I grew up in a home where Christmas was over the top, like
Mhm.
go into debt, Christmas presents out to the middle of the room, and it was overwhelming. It was too much. And so we do a very simple Christmas, and we cook together, we make just, a meal together, and we really enjoy it. We don't have to do all the things, right? We decorate together, we do those things together. So that's really important, to spend time with my grandkids at Christmas. And so we'll be there on Christmas morning. And we have gotten rid of so many of we don't do gifts for everybody anymore, right? Because it's not necessary. We don't need more stuff. And so, like, the kids get things, and a lot of it's practical, but then there's some fun things. But friends and like, we might get together for coffee, things like that. I don't do all the baking anymore, because all I'm going to do is eat it. So, I thought I really enjoyed it until I stopped and I realized I didn't. It was just such an expectation. So I make my one favorite thing, and that's it, right? And so that I don't have all of this other stuff. Christmas lights or winter lights are really, like, I just love that. So we go to different places to experience that. There's parks that we can walk in here. There's Candy Cane Lane, so you can drive down that or walk it depending on the weather, and things like that. So we've picked out the things that are really important to us, and gotten rid of all the rest.
What's your favorite thing that you bake?
Oh, well, it changes from year to year because I have a lot of favorites. But this year it's Sandies, or I think sometimes they're called snowballs, but it's like an almond shortbread in a ball, and then you dust it in icing sugar. But Nanaimo bars is another. I kind of go back and forth on that. I know, Canadian. It's like a custard with chocolate, and then it's got like a chocolate haystack kind of base. The haystack cookies. Sort of that kind of base. Anyways, custard and chocolate.
That's why I asked you the question, because as an American, I'm like, you guys always have something different. We have these little sayings, but that's
I think
cool.
maybe we need those recipes.
Right?
Put them in the show notes.
Yeah, I could do that. I could definitely do that.
I just learned how to make chocolate chip cookies that stay chewy. Mine were always hard after a day or two. Now I figured out how to keep them where you take them out just a few minutes early. What a novel idea. And
that's all it takes?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that one either. Take them out a few minutes early.
I do, relating to Charles' question, I do a cookie swap. I started it last year, and I'm doing it again this year. And last year, as I shared before, my father had just passed away. So it was the first Christmas without my dad and our traditional stuff. And I was like, I am intentionally bringing in some sweet stuff into my life to bring some fun. And I think that was so heartwarming for me, because a few of my friends came over, they brought their cookies, and it was just fun. We had some Christmas cocktails of like a different theme. And it was just a good time to get together with some girlfriends and make it an excuse but nobody had to over bake cookies. You brought one kind, and we had a beautiful display, which is something that I love to do, is decorate a table. Maybe it comes from my catering days, and just made it so girly and frilly and fun, because I did get so sad about not having those fun holiday traditions that I just needed to bring in something new. So that's one of my new ways of bringing, intentionally and mindfully bringing in sweetness and joy, but it wasn't about gifts.
For me, the other day I had a real actualization, a moment where I realized that for most of my life, all of my life, Christmas really did turn into kind of a argumentative type situation. There was always chaos as a child because my father was abusive. We always had chaos. I was excited about Christmas. I come sneaking down the stairs to get all the presents. And then sure enough, we knew by the end of the day that there was going to be some kind of, disruption in the house. And so yesterday I was thinking about it and I was like, wow, this will be the first Christmas like we have no disruption. It will be peaceful. It will be fun. It will be, who knows what's going to happen, because we've all kind of settled into being very mindful and grounded in the lives that we live. We've made a, a specific choice to become mindful people that walk in love and kindness. And it's a beautiful shift. It's a really beautiful shift. But I think it's important to say that because we've made decisions to transform our lives into a space where it's kindness and love driven.
I love that you brought that up, Cheryl. I honor you for being aware of that, and I'm sorry that was a memory of your childhood. But I think a lot of people have this expectation of what the holiday's supposed to look like, and so then when it's not, they get very what I call prickly and angry or lash out, right? And when early in my marriage, I noticed my husband would get that way. You know, I come from Long Island, around a community of people who are givers. So like you always had to come to someone's home with something. Like you would never ever think about going empty-handed. And that's not my family. My family, you can come as you are, but to all of my friends, you always went with something, right? And it was almost a competition of Italians or Jews who was going to outdo each other. And I was neither of the cultures, so just around it, right? So then when I met my husband, I was that person trying to like make the cookies, bring the bread, get the big ziti done, da 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 da. And he would get so cranky, even hours leading up to leaving to go to his mother. And I couldn't understand it. And I thought he was angry at me until one day, and fortunately this was before we had children, because we were married 7 years before we adopted Jake. But I can remember being like, what the heck is wrong with you, man? Like, this is the best holiday, and like this is so fun, and I'm just trying to get my stuff together, and you are in my way, and you are causing chaos in my life. And we would battle. And I'm not a fighter, I'm totally a lover, but I had to like get real with it. And it occurred to me that something about his mother, going to his mother's house, was disrupting his energy. And it was causing him to feel prickly and angry. And so he was battling with me. I wasn't trying to battle with him. And that's when I was like, oh, hell no, are we going there? Because I love, especially Thanksgiving, I love the holiday. And no, you are not going to destroy it with your old memories or your patterns and behaviors. So for us, it was opposite of that. Like it just was interesting that it brought it up. But so yeah, thank you for bringing that up because I think even in our relationships, we can see like, oh, this is some residual old ancestral stuff coming up.
You know, it's funny you bring up ancestral. So are you going to give an example, Larissa, before I take
yeah, I was just going to say, because, you know, in our family, the same thing. We had this huge, big event and it was really stressful. I thought I loved it. I thought I loved, you know, the 32 cases of Christmas ornaments and decorations I had, and, you know, all of the things that had to come out to decorate, and the baking, and the big 150 plus open house that I did every year, where I made everything.
That sounds crazy.
I made all my gifts. I thought I loved it, but it was just expected of me. And when I stopped and realized, and what actually stopped it, my mom died at Christmas. And the year before, I had dipped out of Christmas. I'm like, I can't do it. I was in the middle of a divorce. And I was like, I just can't do all the things. And I canceled Christmas. not knowing it was my mom's last Christmas. And then my mom died on January 2nd, actually, but it was quite an event. And then I just quit Christmas altogether because it was like, I can't keep doing this. I cannot keep doing this. And it took mindfulness to come back to what was important, right? Mm-hmm. What are the things that are actually important to me? And, spending time with my kids and now grandkids, and being able to choose intentionally the things that are going to make us happy, the things that are not going to stress us out, right? We don't go into debt for Christmas. We don't do any of that. We choose intentionally, and it makes all the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect.
That's really good. So what are some of the self-care practices that you all would recommend people, not necessarily saying that we do them, but what are some of the things that you might encourage people to do or that you actually do during the holiday season? Because it could be Thanksgiving. I say the holiday season is Thanksgiving all the way through to January the 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, it's just being intentional, right? And saying no. You don't have to do that. You don't have to go to the company Christmas party. You don't have to do family dinners if it's going to be stressful. You don't have to sit beside that, uncle that abused you. You don't have to do those things. You get to say no. It is completely up to you. Do the things that feed you, but not bless you, but not the things that cost you. It's
Right.
not worth it.
Right.
Like, this is supposed to be a joyous season, and yet mental health issues skyrocket at this time of year.
Yeah, this is where we really definitely need to build our boundaries of what serves our soul, right? And really checking in, like, how does this serve my soul? Or how does this connect with my heart? Does my heart connect with this event? So if you don't want to do something, I actually was just communicating with a client of mine earlier about, like, when they go to parties. So now you're in a party, or you want to go to the party, but you don't want to get involved in all those unnecessary conversations that don't fill you up. So she's like, well, how do I avoid those conversations? And I bluntly said, if you feel like somebody's robbing of your time that you cannot get back, that's when you start to really protect yourself and you step out. I got to go to the bathroom. Ooh, and I use this often. And I put my hand out. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I have to run. I have to go find that person. I have to go tell that person something. Like, I'll use those excuses, and I consciously do not spend time talking to people that do not fill my soul up. And part of that was growth, right? Because I was that person who was caught up in all the conversations, exhausted by the end of the evening, and felt unfulfilled completely. And so when I made it a conscious decision that I want to have fun, and I'm going to have my kind of fun. But just because I'm in a party with 100 people doesn't mean that I need to talk to them all. I can have fun with 2 or 3 friends at that same party, and I'll rally that up, and I'm conscious with that. I make a decision before I walk into that party of what I'm going to do and what my boundaries are.
For me, over the years, I've become that real introvert, especially on my healing journey. And some of the things that I do for my self-care practice is delicious food, right? Because I love a good meal with a good glass of wine, right? That is just not the whole bottle, but just like a glass or two of wine, and watching It's a Wonderful Life, or Eat, Pray, Love, or Under the Tuscan Sun, because those are my favorite movies. And then I might actually do the bath. I'll take a bubble bath and just crawl into it and pamper myself and give myself the okay that it's okay if I'm home. I don't have to go to the party. I don't need to be the life of the party anymore. Been there, done that. And I really, really enjoyed the tranquility of being in my serene surroundings, as well as in alignment with what you were saying, Elizabeth, is setting the boundaries,
Mhm.
right? I just received a text, and my friend was like, "Are you sure you don't want to go to the party?" I'm positive. Yeah, I don't enjoy that any longer, to be around a bunch of strangers that I'd have to talk to. I don't want to talk to figure out what to say to them. It's just not my thing. And then the well-being side of it is I will go outside for a hike in a second. Like, just go get that fresh, crisp outdoor air into my lungs and give thanks, give thanks. So,
Yeah. Find the things that feed you,
mhm.
right? Not the things that are going to cost you. Whatever that is. Go to a museum, go to an art, like go to something that you want to do. Go see the ballet. You don't have to find other people either, right? Do the things you love because you love them and just ignore all the other things.
And that's a big girl step, right? To go alone. But once you do it, it becomes
Actually better.
so affirming, right? It's so affirming, and it builds my courage and confidence.
Yeah.
I just went to the museum the other day by myself. I had gone to the whole museum party thing. I think I told you guys about that, and that was cool. What was cool is that people could feel my energy when I walked in the room because I had a hat on. I was almost cloaked, right? Like you didn't know it was me. And then people could feel my energy, and I ran into friends, which was really cool. But the other day I went by myself, and it was so beautiful walking into this pristine environment that was, decorated with things that had history and knowledge and culture. It was just amazing. Go to the museum by your all self. Go.
Mhm.
Just go do it. That's just a sidebar, FYI.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I love that, again, like just being aware and mindful that it's time to grow and change. And I think the idea of growth, right? When we look at what we no longer want to do, like for you, Cheryl, not needing to go to the party to be the life of the party any longer, and shedding that part of who you are, but now morphing into this new creation of who you're becoming and taking ownership to that desire to say, I'm becoming somebody different, and it's okay for me to be different. It's okay for me to act different, have different conversations, have different interests. And that is a beautiful thing. And I think for so many years, we've been taught for generations like, oh, you're just supposed to do the same things. This is a family tradition. We just do these things. And when one ancestor dies and then we let that tradition go, it's okay to add in new things, And I think that
Mhm.
giving yourself permission mindfully to say it's okay for us to add new, and it doesn't have to look exactly the way it's looked for the last 20, 30, 40 years or more, right? And just
Mhm.
being aware that you're not here to please everyone else. You're here to please your heart, to identify what that looks like. And then if you find somebody that would like to go along with you to the museum or for the hike because you know that they're in alignment with you, then beautiful. But you're not lonely because you did it because you chose to do it. And then
By
you add
yourself.
somebody.
Yeah. So I just want to go back to that because you said it 2 times now. Let's talk about the use of the word ancestors now more and more in our language. I know it's a little bit of a sidebar, but I think I'll be able to wrap it back around. So when you say ancestors, Elizabeth, what do you mean?
Well, it could mean as simple as like my mother is my ancestor, right? My
Really
grandmother is
wonderful
my
of you to have.
ancestor.
Yeah.
My father, my grandparents, I look at like that, but we could go back for years and years and generations.
Mhm.
Recently for me, I look at again what the impact of my mother and my father had on me, and then what their parents had on them, which provoked thoughts, behaviors, and decisions on my parents, right? Which ultimately had an impact on my life. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
love that I just wanted you hit it dead, what's it called? Head on the whatever.
spot
You
on.
hit
Oh, the
right
Nail
head.
on
on
the
that. You hit the point because you mentioned it multiple times, and I know people can get caught up and confused in thinking that ancestors have to be 33 generations behind us. In this day and age, in this new environment world that we're coming into, the use of the word ancestors has so much more awareness and currency in this current moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I think, in movies like Moana and, I'm trying to think of the other one, they talk about, like, what's the one with the Mexicans that they celebrate the dead the souls, the
Yeah,
dead?
yeah.
They talk about ancestors. They talk about, like, those past people who tribal, like, how they did things, and so, the current mind may go to, like, "Oh, my ancestry of my Irish heritage," or my
Mhm.
and that's okay too. But it's as real as why you are who you are because your mother was a certain way and your father was a certain way and your grandparents of both of those humans were a certain way, and that's what's molded you to be who you are. But if you really want to go back a few generations, you could probably scale it to see, like, I know my great grandmother was my father's grandmother was in vaudeville, and his grandfather, and my great grandfather was a psychic. So
Oh, wow.
had I
What's
known
vaudeville? What's
vaudeville
vaudeville?
vaudeville was in Chicago. They were like actors, but they were like they would do skits on, like, I'm trying to think, um,
It
Like
was
the
a
play?
full experience, a full, yeah, show with
Mhm.
dancing and singing, and what was happening
Mhm.
in the world was always it was like SNL on stage.
yes,
Ah,
yes.
way cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were performers, and my father was a speaker, and my father could have been a wonderful performer. So you could see, like, his ancestors, it was in his DNA to be that way, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So I'm not a shy person. My sister's not a shy. Like, we take on that energy of who our father was. Not to say that either one of us wanted to be a actor, but I've been on stage for many years as a speaker and motivational speaker. So, you just get to that go, "Oh, that's why I am who I am," you know?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
really become quite the cool topic. Not I don't wanna say cool, but it's becoming more and more in the forefront of our conversations in the world to talk about our ancestors in a positive way. It doesn't always have to be around slavery and abuse and all of that, the influence that they've had on our lives. So it's really cool.
It very much so, like, as we understand more and more how that ancestral line affects who we are, right? We talk a lot about ancestral trauma, but there's more to it than that because our ancestors are a part of us. And so, good and bad, positive and negative, whatever, however you want to perceive that. But so yeah, they have been a part of making us who we are.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think also just, especially during the holidays of, like, remembering and feeling the loss, I think instead of looking at what they weren't or what they did not do, look at the beautiful parts of who they were, right? The glimmers of light. And I think that that's the key thing that gets us through the days of the dark days, right? To look at what what occurred and what is the good parts of those people, because there's positive to all people, even some of the darkest people, right?
Mhm.
We need to understand, what did we learn from those people so we can be the person that we are today for the greater good.
Yeah. One of my favorite movies that or series that I told you all about was Another Self. And
Mhm.
I don't know if you all ever watched it. It's on Netflix, but it really gets into the ancestral healing process and how ancestors help to influence the way that we think and believe and act. So it's pretty cool. I just wanted to share that. It's on Netflix. Did I say that?
Yeah. Yeah. I've watched the first season. I haven't watched the second season yet. And yeah, but the ancestral healing, right, is it recognizing that how we're affected by what's happened to us, which, even if you look at just your life and the things that have happened to you, how are they affecting your health? How are they affecting how you show up? That show in particular very much looks at the health implications of
Mhm.
having this stored in your body. And so, how are you removing what has been holding you back, or what is causing this um, dis-ease, for lack of a better term, in your life, right? Because we're getting sicker and sicker with all the things that we have in place to make us supposedly healthier, and
Right.
we're getting sicker and sicker. So maybe it's time to be looking at some of these things, right? What is
Mhm.
causing this? What is within us that is causing this? And it's different for everyone. It's a personal journey you have to go on.
Yeah, you have to do the work, and it's amplified by the speed and desire for us to be more resilient, and instead of now moving or instead of living in what is evolving as the slow culture. I don't know if you all
Mm.
have heard that term, but we're kind of becoming part of that slower culture,
Mhm.
with mindfulness and awareness and our meditations and all of the strategies that we use to kind of bring us down to earth and
Mhm.
maneuver through the world, like, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I also feel like, again, I love what you just said, Cheryl, but with what Larissa, in relative to what Larissa said, of sometimes just sitting in, and this might sound very raw, but this is something I say to a lot of my clients. Like, sometimes we just have to sit in the shit. You have to sit
Mhm.
in those dark days. But while you're sitting there, asking yourself, what am I learning? What am I smelling? What am I feeling? Why am I being this way? Right? What is this teaching me? So we can understand, like, if you're not healthy, maybe it's because it's a mindset shift that needs to happen, or maybe it's a choice of what you're putting in your body. But along with that, it's a mindset shift, right? Because you can't, just because you love your sugar and or you love to overindulge, there's a mindset shift that has to happen, because you've decided to honor your body and take care of who you are. And so I see a lot of times where clients will overindulge because they're angry at themselves, or they're angry within, and they want to self-harm. So it's shifting and slowing down so they can almost be the reflection of what they see inside, as well as what they're receiving on the outside. So that awareness of, oh man, I don't like what my life looks like on the outside, maybe I need to look on the inside, and then shift the behaviors to know that it's important. You have to, body, mind, and soul, align with everything. And it's hard work. And that's where having a practitioner or multiple people to be on your team of healing is necessary. Most people can't do that work alone.
Yeah, yeah. Either a private practitioner or a community, right? And that's why so many
Mhm.
of these heart-centered type communities like you all have, I have, have evolved, and especially for women, because we are the nurturers. We're the ones that are always trying to do it all. But when you get involved in communities like the Heart Centered Academy or Magnificent Mamas Collective or the Entrepreneur Collective, the Mindful Entrepreneur Collective, you get surrounded by people that are loving, and you get some laughter and some joy, and you're given grace in spaces that you would normally think that because historically there were always these things where women were coming together, and there might be the negative energy there now, but the rise of the divine feminine, not so much, not so much. So
find your community.
Find your community. That's exactly what exactly it. Find your community. I'm sorry, Loris.
No, I was just going to say it's necessary right now. Women are rising, and the energy of the feminine divine is rising. And in that, women are rising and coming together and will affect change. And so, find your community, be a part of that change.
It's been really cool. I've been doing my podcast, Mindful Moments with Cheryl, and the women that I have met are amazing. Absolutely amazing. And because it's of the mindfulness genre, I'm bringing in people that are very energetically aligned or very much into energy. And so I don't know, it's the awareness, the beauty of us rising up is amazing. Even in my clients, because of what just happened in the United States, so many women are coming forward and being like, we got to come together. We got to be mindful of the success that we want to build for ourselves. We got to start it at XYZ level. We got to, you get my point, right? Like it's a real we type experience now. There's still some dissension with people that are just not in alignment with us or on this journey at the same place, but it's so beautiful. So beautiful.
Yeah. And as we are wrapping up, is there any final thoughts that we want to share before we go today?
Be kind to yourself and give yourself grace.
Yeah, I would agree. I think right now is a time to be gentle, and doing isn't the most necessary thing, but more being, and being who you are, being wherever you are, meeting yourself there with nurture, love, and grace.
Yeah. And my final thought would be, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. Yeah.
No is a complete sentence.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you. See you next time.
Find feminine voices.